the number of Nobel Prize laureates.
It's amazing.
It's disproportionate. Overly educated, overly published.
In Israel, we believe in academia.
Maybe you can take a minute or two and explain what it is this beast of a machine does.
Basically, what we're doing is trying to change the way that we treat cancer today, trying to revolutionize this industry totally.
We are in business. We're here to make money, but at the end of the day, we also want to be investing in things that will improve the human condition.
We have people flying to the moon. We have a lot of unbelievable stuff happening today. Then why not take that unbelievable and very strong engineering tools and just bring them to medicine, to science?
The Bible tells us that one of the names of God is Adonai Rofenu, Adonai Rafa, God our healer. We also know that when Yeshua was walking in the land of Israel, wherever he went, he stopped and healed the people. To show the love of God is through healing. Today, Israel is a leading country in biotechnology. Some of the things that we're going to see together are nothing short of a miracle. We're going to watch together how the God of Israel gave special wisdom, I believe a supernatural wisdom, to scientists here in Israel to come up with new ways to bring medicine, to bring cures to some major diseases. Let us see together what God has to do in biotechnology here in Israel.
Israel truly shines when it comes to technological research and development. And specifically in the medical field, we've created an ecosystem and a community that quickly and effectively bring to market life-saving technologies. This isn't only important, it's not only unique, it dramatically alters the life of those affected. From the headlines that we've read, it sounds unbelievable. It sounds fantastic to the point of science fiction.
So it's more tangible and true than you would think, but yes, it does sound like science fiction.
We have the brightest of the entire world end up in this lab.
To my opinion, yes.
There's dramatic need. People are dying. There is a therapy, but we're not making it available. Now, there's no limitation.
We are known for an imaginary mind, combining areas that not necessarily will work, but this is Zionism. We are not afraid to take the chance, even if the result will be failing. So what? You fail, you start another idea that you have.
Biotechnology is what happens when technology is based on biology. Researchers in this field use biological materials to develop commercial products. Everything from pharmaceuticals and vaccines to quick-check insulin pens and heart stents. Biotech is a cornerstone of global healthcare, and you guessed it, Israel is a world leader in developing hugely impactful medical devices that save lives.
We're on our way up north towards Haifa to visit the Technion, which is one of the leading technical institutes in this country, and also a university that's known around the world for its Nobel Prizes and many other innovations and discoveries. We're going to meet with Professor Marcelle Machluf, who, by what I've heard, is one of the leading researchers in the world of biotechnology. I mean, the work she's doing is truly groundbreaking. So what is this? Is this your lab?
Yes, this is part of my lab. I have 20 students here, excellent students that are doing the work. I was once doing the work.
Now you point fingers and tell them what to do.
Yes.
So I want to dive in a bit into some of the groundbreaking research you're involved in, and maybe you can start with the headlines and we can get to the details.
Well, it's hard. In general, my lab is divided to two. One part is tissue engineering. In other words, building organ in the lab. As you see here.
Is this lab grown?
It's lab grown. Okay, all the material. For instance, in the case of bone, there are a lot of bone cancers that eat part of the bone. Once the physician take out the tumor, you have a hole. Now you can CT scan the hole. You translate it to a printer, which can print the part that is missing, but from which material? From a material that we isolated from a pig.
So it's not an implant, you're helping the body regenerate.
Exactly.
Amazing.
The other project is developing vehicles for treating cancer, vehicles that can target the drug to the tumor niche. So we take cells that all of us have and we empty their content, downsizing them to particles that can be filled with the drug of choice. Once the particles are injected to the bloodstream, they circulate. If you have a tumor, they will hook to the tumor. Why? Because the tumor signals these specific cells to come and help to evade the immune response. So why not taking this membrane, only the outer surface, and making it as a vehicle, as a bus that can take the drug to the tumor? And at the beginning, it was science fiction. That's what we were told.
Had it ever been done before?
No.
Some of the most important developments being made today are the ones related to life-saving technologies, the ones that directly improve the quality of life of people around the world. But much of this research and development wouldn't happen without the cooperation of hospitals like this one and the research institutes around the country. Some of the things we've seen are truly incredible. Ailments that just a short time ago would kill people or leave them debilitated can now be finally cured. These are truly life-saving technologies. Let's zoom out for a minute.
Yeah.
My basic understanding of this field.
Okay.
The general medical practice is to just bombard the entire body of the sick person
With a drug.
with drugs that destroy the tumor to a certain degree, but also a ton of other things.
Yeah.
But I think the headline, and correct me if I'm overstating this, you found a revolutionary way of delivering medicine in cancer patients.
To my opinion, yes.
But let me compliment you as someone from the outside. We've discussed two items that each of them is an industry disruptor.
Yes, but that's the Technion, and that's the researcher, and I am one example of what is going on here.
The Technion is truly a marvel. There's a reason it's one of the top universities in the world, and Professor Machluf explained to me why that is.
The Technion was built like more than 100 years ago, before Israel was established, okay? And it was built because we knew that we need to build our country, and we need transportation, and we need road, and we need other industries that will have the safety of Israel. The defense industry in Israel is leading in the world. Why? Because you need it for your survival. So you need to accelerate it. You need to put funding. You need to put your mind to think out of the box.
Necessity.
Same in biotech. We understand today that this is the field that we will need for our survival, not only Israeli one, worldwide. In Israel, we believe in academia, so that's why you have so many universities.
This institute is very unique in the sense that there are just like a very long list of innovation that's come out and have become products that are worth enormous amounts of money.
Exactly.
How did that happen?
We are, I think, the only engineering institute in the world that has a medical school. It's not that we have collaboration with the medical school. Today we know how important it is because then we can talk. Our faculty is one such an excellent example because it's biotechnology and food engineering. You can have biotechnology, but adding the word engineering is very important. It means that you engineer processes, not only develop the processes or understand the processes, but you also engineer them to transfer to the industry.
As Marcelle and the Technion fuel the industry with life-changing innovation, they're only the first part of the story. It takes partnerships with companies in the private sector to utilize their research and create marketable products.
How's it going, Ohad?
Very good, thank you.
Good to see you. So this is home.
Well, yeah, this is where I spend most of my time.
So where are we in the country?
We're in the north in the Galilee. This is a brand new high-tech park trying to bring high-tech and biotech industries into the north of Israel.
That's Dr. Ohad Karnieli. His company, Adva Bio, is bringing a groundbreaking cancer treatment to the masses. About 30 years ago at the Weizmann Institute, Israeli scientists developed a new and extremely effective cancer therapy. But they never found a way to make this therapy easily accessible to patients. Dr. Ohad Karnieli and his team are working hard to remedy that.
What a view. What an amazing view.
Yeah.
You guys, from what we hear, are doing something amazing here. Something that is going to be groundbreaking, something that we're going to be reading about for many years to come.
So yes, when you look at cancer, it's a very complicated disease. It's a personalized disease. So the disease looks different in every different patient. So how does it work? Well, we have in our body cells that know to attack disease cells.
But the immune system.
Right, it's part of the immune system. We shouldn't have cancer, but something goes wrong and it doesn't do that job. So what we're doing is we're taking a blood sample, isolating a few of these cells, engineering them now to identify the specific cancer of that specific patient, and practically sending an army of directed patient's own T cells to that cancer. And practically the cancer is eliminated.
For good.
For good.
In one shot.
In one shot.
That's amazing.
Now you're probably asking then how come people are still dying? Because this has been approved 3 years ago. And the reason is it's almost impossible to manufacture because it's a per patient.
It's per person.
Yes. And that's practically where Adva Biotechnology comes into the picture.
So do we get to see how this machine works?
Yes, let's go to the lab.
Awesome.
So basically, from the patient side, it's almost nothing. They'll come to the hospital, they'll give a blood donation. That blood will go to the machine. The machine will basically separate the correct cells, engineer them. After about 10 days, the patient will come back to the hospital, receive that bag of now his own targeted T cells to target cancer, inject it in, and then within a few days, practically the cells attack the cancer and the cancer is eliminated.
So you've essentially built a lab in a box.
A lab with the scientist in it.
Yeah.
But the scientist
So instead of this thing, you would have had a room full of people in suits working away on the little vials. It's all happening in the machine.
Yes.
How big of a facility is this replacing?
This is replacing about a team of 5 to 8 people, 2 or 3 rooms. So it's a dramatic reduction.
And I'm looking at the amount of information that it's monitoring live. It's very substantial.
Yes, and that's the major difference than anything else. Because if you want to take the brain of a scientist and that art and make it a process, you have to have a lot of information. And then calculate out of it what is the next step to do. That's exactly what's happening here. We prove the product, we know it works. Next year, we're going to do a pilot, and hopefully the year later, we'll start mass production, scale up everything, start supporting these therapies all over the world.
The implications of Dr. Karnieli's work are beyond incredible. And from inception to application, this technology is 100% Israeli. Meanwhile, Professor Machluf is applying her latest biotech research to cutting-edge industries. The path to success isn't easy. But for Professor Machluf and Dr. Karnieli, there's no way around it.
It is a high-risk industry, but high-risk is a synonym name for Israeli entrepreneurial. We like to have challenges, we love high risk, and we are not afraid to take the chance.
It's a gift to work on something you know that will affect the lives of people.
All this in a little country in the Middle East that just happens to be the homeland of the people through which God promised to bless the whole world. As we've seen today, the development of medical technology thrives as businessmen and women join forces with scientists and researchers.
How's it going, Steve?
Hey, Mati. Good. How are you? Welcome. Welcome to Trendlines.
In this case, it takes two to tango.
I've heard a lot of exciting things about this place.
Well, some of them are even true, I hope.
Steve Rhodes founded the company Trendlines. They're one of the most active and successful medtech VCs in Israel, and they specialize in bringing business and R&D together under one roof.
So, Steve, if I asked you to give us the pitch on who Steve is, what would that sound like?
Oh, that's a tough one. I'm someone who's very passionate about what I do. I moved to Israel out of passion for being here. The funny part of it is that I have a history of doing things that I'm not qualified to do.
Successfully, though.
I think so. I first came to Israel when I was 16,000 years ago. I was on a high school program. I was here for 6 months. I lived with a family. I was a freshman in college when the Yom Kippur War broke out. And I felt tremendously guilty because the kids that I had been in high school with here were in the army fighting to defend the state, and I was back in the States having a good time in the university. So I dropped out of school, came to Israel during the war as a volunteer, filling in for people who'd been called up into the Army Reserves. It was during that time that I was in Israel that I realized that if it was so important for me to be here and to be part of protecting the country, that this is where I wanted to live. My whole career, as I said, is doing things I'm not qualified to do. So I went to being a CFO, which I knew nothing about, and then I went to being in sales and marketing, and then I went together with his friend. We established a consulting practice, which we called Trendlines. What we had seen over the years was that young Israeli startups didn't typically fail because of bad ideas or because of lack of market. They failed because of lack of business experience on the part of the founders. These are companies that were being started by doctors, scientists, engineers, farmers. In 2007, we transitioned the Trendlines company from being a consulting business to being an investing business.
Today, Trendlines supports companies that they believe in, providing technological and business development, conducting market research, raising capital, and more.
It looks like we're standing in front of a huge wall of current and past achievements. Maybe you can walk us through a couple of the big, the milestones on this wall?
Sure.
When Steve and his partners invest in a company, their goal is to provide everything that company needs, allowing them to focus on the task at hand, bringing good to the world.
This is a device for treating adolescent scoliosis. The surgery that's done today is very extreme. The girl, for the rest of her life, essentially walks around with a spine that's a single column. There's no flexibility at all. What our company, Apifix, did was develop a small device. The process is much easier, much simpler, and at the end of the day, the girl doesn't lose flexibility in her back. Another product that really has an enormous impact on the quality of life of the people who use it. I don't know if you know what a colostomy is. People with a colostomy walk around all their lives with a bag attached like this and constantly filling with material. Our company, Stematics, came up with a small device that replaces the bag. Now the person wearing this, when they have the need, they go into the bathroom, they take off a cover, and a bag that's folded up inside comes out, fills, they take it off and throw it out.
Amazing.
It is amazing.
The small things that make a huge difference.
So now let's go over to Trendlines Labs. It's our in-house innovation group. It's a group of inventors who work for us, doing amazing things, inventing new medical products that address real problems.
An interesting example is one of our projects named the Lioness, which has one clear goal, which is reducing the rate of preterm birth.
We've just raised over $1 million for the company, and we're going to be going into a big clinical trial to show the efficacy of the device. Let me show you one of our really interesting companies, Arcuro.
So Arcuro Medical developed and now manufacture a device to repair meniscus. We have 2 meniscus in each knee. Meniscus sometimes have tears. So if you have a tear, you can either cut the meniscus or repair the meniscus. Cutting the meniscus is not good for you. It's easy operation, but it's not good for you. We decided to create a repair device. So this will allow them to keep the meniscus inside, and this will be a huge change, a game changer.
It's healing a meniscus instead of removing it, which is just an enormous difference.
Steve's vision to help Israel prosper has come to life. We've only seen a few of the game-changing medical innovations that Trendlines has helped bring to consumers, and there's a lot more where that came from.
There's nothing like the feeling when it succeeds. When you see the product in the marketplace, when it's working and it's changing people's lives. That's an amazing feeling, and you say to yourself, wow, I did that.
Shalom. With us today is Ron Nussbaum, a friend. He's a co-founder of Pontifax, a venture capital that does a lot in the biotechnology world. Shalom, Ron. Welcome to our show.
Thank you so much.
In the past 15 years, we see that Israel is taking a lead position in the pharmaceutical and the biotechnology world. How come?
Well, the Israeli innovation is, in my view, second to none. The quality of science that we are seeing from Yeda, from the Technion, from Tel Aviv University, and from the Jerusalem University is as good as the MIT one, the UCLA one, and things that we're seeing from Harvard. We don't have the same resources when it's come to funding and financial, but when we are looking at drugs that came from Israel, from Copaxone, Azilact, Sajolin, Rebif, and so forth, I think that Israel is really a great place where good innovations came from.
The Bible tells us that Israel will be a light to the nation, and I believe that Israel is a light to the nation in the pharmaceutical world and research. Do you think Israelis are thinking outside the box, or what caused Israelis to, first of all, research so much, And second of all, we see a success.
Well, the Israeli people, or the Jewish people, is fighting for their lives since forever. This will let us to think smart, to think outside of the box, and to be creative. Mm-hmm. Probably not only in pharmaceutical or biotech. So, in God we trust, all the rest in data. So when it comes to numbers or for royalties, when you're looking at Technion or you're looking at Yeda, they are ranked top 10.
We saw huge change in the last 20 years in the pharmaceutical world. Once it was governments, states were investing in that, and now we see a shifting. People like you, businessmen, who are investing, who are raising capital to the pharmaceutical world.
Yeah, so I think that the change is very rapid, but makes sense to me.
To you, definitely.
Most of the leading pharmaceutical companies are led by now by either CFOs or business-oriented guys.
And that's a huge change.
It's a huge change. Even if you're looking at Novartis, one of the most impressive companies ever, Novartis was run only by physicians. Mm-hmm. In the last 3 or 4 positions, they gave the CEO role either to business development guys or to CFOs. Mm-hmm. Pharma companies, like every other company, should be led by managers, not by physicians.
We should let those people who do business to do business and the research to do research.
Exactly.
From the moment somebody, a professor, a scientist has an idea, till it gets to the market, how much money has to be invested and how much time?
That's a great question. And the anomaly is that there is a consensus that from an idea until the market, it will cost you something around $1 billion.
Wow.
However, if you're...
Which is very risky.
It's very risky and a lot of money.
Because you never know if it's going to hit it or not.
I agree. But there's 2 buts for that. The first one is it's budget for $1 billion for a big pharma. And that's the consensus. Small companies can speed things up, can be more effective. And Israeli companies know how to speed things up, how to think outside of the box. This is why we think that we'll see a massive change where big pharma will be distributors only and will buy drug from small companies.
Wow, very interesting. So on the personal note, why for you it's so important to be in this field?
I think it's something that combines 2 great things. When you are hitting the right spot, when you are betting on the right horse, you will make money. But one thing which is great is also that you can contribute to humankind. Mm-hmm. If you can save only 1 patient, that's great. But if you're coming up with a blockbuster, with a very massive drug that can save multiple patients' life, that's a very, very nice achievement.
Mr. Nussbaum, what a great honor, great things, and to you, our friends, the miracle and the story of Israel is in many, many fields. Thank you.
Thank you
for being with us. Thank you for joining us as we provide a spiritual insight of what God is doing in Israel and in the Middle East. If you want to learn more about what God is doing in Israel, make sure to visit us on our webpage and follow us on social media. Shalom, and God bless you from Jerusalem.